Good evening, everyone. Call this meeting to order, Rutherford County School Board, November 15th. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. It'll be led tonight by our director, Mr. Don Odom. Thank you, Mr. Odom. If the staff and everyone else would join the board in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next order of business is to approve the agenda. I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Blair.
before we make a motion to that, I talked to the director prior to this meeting, and he has met with the principals, and they have decided that they will work out the football scheduling amongst themselves. And I would like to make a motion to remove item number 14 from the agenda.
Okay, you heard the motion. Need a second. Second. Mr. Young, thank you for your second. Any comments, discussions from any board member? You heard the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? There is none. The rest of the agenda we'll leave as is and go
To approve.
Thank you. I need a second for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor of leaving the agenda as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 5, approval of the consent agenda. And remind the crowd, although you all probably already know this, that we had a work session last night, and we have been over just about everything. Everything, I guess, it's on this agenda in detail last night. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. A second?
Second.
Mr. Estes, thank you. Any comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that moves us right into number 6, visitors, and I don't think we have any. No visitors tonight. Spotlight on education. My most exciting night, no doubt about it. It is. It is exciting tonight. It really is. I'm serious. Mr. Odom, please.
The Spotlight on Education, what is 504? And through our Student Services Department, Ms. Barnes, would you mind introducing the people that'll the presentation?
If I could have the opportunity to introduce Karen Better and Tommy Barrett, because they not only do Section 504 for our school district, but they handle so many other things in that department. So they are the Department of Counseling and Student Assistance Services under Student Services Division here in our district. And their responsibilities include working with all of our school counselors, especially our new counselors, to help them with professional development needs, coordinate needs for their specific fields, assist with curriculum planning, really coordinate our responsive services. So when we have a situation that occurs in our district, we need to pull our personnel together to assist students or staff. They're the ones that coordinate those steps for us, in addition to serving as the district liaisons for Section 504 of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So tonight they're going to share with you a little bit about 504, what it entails, what it really means, and how it impacts Rutherford County as a school district. I'm proud to introduce Ms. Metter and Ms. Barrett, and they're going to tell you everything there is to know about 504.
Good evening. I'm Tommy, and Karen is my co-worker. We're going to split the presentation in half as well. She and I split the 46 schools. Each of us takes 23, and we help those faculty members and staff members to identify and evaluate and provide services for the children that they find to be eligible for Section 504. So tonight is just a brief overview of what the law is and how we go about remaining compliant in the county. And we gave you a handout that you might want to refer to as we walk through. First of all, what is Section 504? It is a federal civil rights law, and it's part of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and you have a definition there on your first slide. And it's designed to eliminate disability discrimination in programs and activities that receive federal funds, which includes schools. So we are, held accountable for remaining compliant with this law. Denying a disabled student a free and appropriate public education, which we refer to as FAPE, constitutes disability discrimination. And that is our goal is to not do that, to help our faculty and staff not do that. The law is different than IDEA. IDEA is the special education law, but it's a little different than that. It's more inclusive than that. IDEA is looking largely at academic impact, but as we walk through the presentation, you'll see that Section 504 law is a whole lot more inclusive of students. The next slide asks, so who is eligible under Section 504? Here you see some bullet points that these are the things that are considered when a committee gets together to decide if a student is eligible and meets the standards. Some examples of a physical or mental impairment might be ADHD or diabetes. It can impact any major life activity or major bodily function. Bipolar disorder, Crohn's disease, the list is very inclusive and very long. When determining eligibility, a student is compared to his non-disabled peer. And if the answer to those questions about impairment are yes, then he is made eligible, and then we write a service plan for that student. So how is disabled defined under 504? Congress passed in 2008 the Americans with Disabilities Amendment Act, the ADAA, and it was really intended to really broaden the scope of what students are eligible for a service plan. Their intent was to be very inclusive. For example, major life activities, as defined in the Section 504 regulations, include functions such as performing manual tasks or walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing, learning, eating, sleeping, standing. The list is just inexhaustive. And they also gave an example list of major bodily functions, and those things would include functions of the immune system or normal cell growth, digestive, bowel, bladder, neurological. It's really any impairment that significantly impacts a student in any area, major bodily function or impairment of mental or physical impairment. So the next slide is how do we determine that a student is eligible? It begins with a referral. We get a suspicion maybe from a health form or difficulties in the classroom, but we get a suspicion that there might be an impairment. So a 504 team is assembled, and they look at a variety of evidence. They are a team that is knowledgeable about the student. They know the student. They understand the medical, if it's a medical impairment, or they have knowledge about the situation. And they look at lots of different kinds of evidence to answer those eligibility questions. If a student is made eligible, then a service plan is created to reduce the impact of that impairment so that the student is provided a level playing ground with his non-disabled peers in the classroom. So you might wonder, what is the range of students that we serve? It's a very wide range because we have some students that are technically eligible, and this is a student that when you ask the eligibility questions, let's take ADHD for example, does the student have a medical impairment? Yes, if he has ADHD. And is it significantly impacting? Yes. So he would be eligible for those due process rights. But he might be medicated, and his medication mitigates the impact of that ADHD. So he doesn't need anything at this point. He doesn't need any services. He's doing well in school. But he is still technically eligible and is afforded those due process rights. So we have everything from the technically eligible to a student that is in a wheelchair after a car accident and needs extensive care and OT, occupational therapy services and physical therapy services. And there are hundreds of students in between those two extremes. And I'll let Karen finish the slide.
I'll try not to mess that up. That kind of gives you who qualifies. Well, what does 504 do for a student? Basically, most of our students need simple classroom accommodations, things like, repeating directions to them, helping them to stay refocused, maybe giving them extra time to turn in assignments, and those types of things. But you also have the other end of the spectrum where they need nursing assistance, occupational therapy, physical therapy, transportation. Sometimes that's long-term, sometimes that's short-term, assistive technology. All of those things that you see listed on there are things that 504 can provide for students. Sometimes we have a lot of autistic students. Maybe they need an autism specialist or a behavior specialist. Any of those items listed up there are things that we can provide for our 504 students. The 504 law requires that we provide whatever that student needs to access the curriculum. And it's very individualized for each student. It's not going to take an average student and make them an A student. We tend to get a lot of them around the time ACT comes around. They want extra time on ACT, and that's not what it's intended for. It's intended for students who need these accommodations most of the time on a regular basis. All special ed students are covered under Section 504. They have 504 rights also. The qualifications for 504 is much broader than the qualifications for special ed. Special ed has 13 areas that they look at, and we look at just about any area that there is. If you look at our numbers, we increase every year, just like the population of Rutherford County schools. We do not see that changing at all. We anticipate that it will grow more than just the percent that our student population grows. As parents find out how to access it, as schools learn better about how to utilize it. And if you look, like between the 2014-2015 year, we saw a pretty big jump, and that was when we started implementing some of the RTI things and let fewer students qualified for special ed, more qualified for 504. Unlike special ed, it is a federal law, but there is no federal funding. If we do need related services or materials or anything like that, either the school provides it or it comes out of our general fund. And we provide everything from magnifying glasses to weighted blankets to the services, having contracting out for OT to come in, PT to come in, and provide services for those. This is what our role is, Tommy and I at the central office. These are some of the things that we do. We do the training. Every school has a Section 504 chair, and they are the first line when the parent contacts the school wanting to know more about 504. That is who they're going to contact. We do a lot of training with them, everything from webinars and Skyping to newsletters, just constantly ongoing. 504 changes as court cases come through and the federal law changes and we learn how to interpret it better, so we are constantly giving training along those lines. We do attend some of the school level meetings if it's if it's a lot of complex issues or we know that there are going to be a lot of services that we're going to need to provide. It's very difficult with 46 schools and 2 of us to attend them all. Obviously, we couldn't do that. But we do, especially if it's a new 504 coordinator and things like that, we do try to attend those. Behavior is a big issue across the board, and this year, I thought this was great that our school system did that. We trained a general ed person from every school to learn how to do FBAs and BIPs and to write appropriate behavior plans, and we help them with that also. We manage the support services like OT and PT, writing those requisitions, contacting those people, getting those services scheduled. Everything from ordering large print materials for vision impaired students, FM system for the hearing impaired students, We arrange special transportation. Sometimes we have to evaluate to see if they need assistive technology. Like if you have a cerebral palsy kid who has difficulty handwriting, maybe they need a keyboard or an Alpha Smart or something to help them in that area. So we have to assess and see what they're needing. EdPlan is the computer program that we use to track all of our students. We implemented it about 3 years ago, and it has been extremely helpful in getting our 504 in compliance, making sure that they're updated regularly and things like that. And it helps us to track trends. You know, where are we seeing increase? Like we're seeing big increases with autistic students, so that we can learn what kind of training that we need to get so that we can provide that to our schools. And we also work with our legal department. I've gotten to know Angel probably more so than we intended to, you know, when we mediate complaints, we go to due process, we file OCR complaints, and we try to address those as quickly as we can and to prevent any of those complaints as we go along. I know that was really fast. I want to thank you for your time, but I also wanted to give you a couple, you know, if you had any questions on that. We could speak about 504 for days, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, but you may hear that terminology, and I want you to know what it means. So I see a question over here.
I do. Thank you. And I appreciate all that you all do. This is obviously a huge, huge job, so, and I know it's a tough undertaking, so we appreciate it. I've got several questions. I just would like some clarification. Now, the 504 is different than the IDEA, but I'm assuming that based on how that disabilities and so on, are there students that fall into both, I guess is my question, or is it pretty much one or the other?
In
I
most
understand this
cases,
is more
it's one or
inclusive.
the other.
Okay.
There is nothing that we could write in a 504 plan that you could not write in an IEP. We call ours an IAP. It's an individualized accommodation plan. So there would be no reason to have 2 meetings for most of our students.
Right.
Usually, like if we have a diabetic student who's also learning disabled, then they can write those accommodations in her IEP plan.
Okay, to satisfy both then, so, well, that would make sense.
And all special ed students also already have 504 protection.
Okay. On page 3, where you've got the slide how the eligibility is determined, I'm looking at this and I get, you know, referrals made on suspicion of impairment. So in other words, I assume that might sometimes come like directly from a teacher or an educational assistant or someone in the school that's involved with that child, not necessarily when they're registered and start the school year from the parent. So when I look at how this flows, I guess I kind of have a question of when is the parent notified that this referral or concern has been expressed? Where in the process do they get involved, and then how involved are they in helping the committee formulate the plan for that student?
Well, and part of what is the identification piece is what we call the student assistance process. So faculty, staff, they're all watching for just red flags if a student is struggling. And if they notice that, the parent is involved from the very beginning.
Okay.
They're notified that we're concerned and we would like to assemble a committee to talk about whatever the concern is.
So are the parents allowed to participate then with the committee then as far as working out or mapping out that plan for their child?
It is not mandatory by law like it is in special ed, but it's good practice to include the parent. I mean, they know that child better than anybody, and they have some of the most important input. So they're definitely part of the team.
So I think one more, maybe two. On the slide on page 4, how many students in our school are eligible, and I look at the increases, but these are just simply the number of students, correct, in each of those years that required assistance from this. So how does that relate to the tremendous growth that we're having? Because I wonder if it's really that significant, other than that 1 year that you mentioned, obviously 13, 14 to 14, 15, but after that, do you have any numbers on percentage, like per capita numbers or anything as far as
It used to
how much
be
growth
that
it really was relative?
it used to be that special ed was 10 to 12%, and that 504 was 1% of that. It's a much smaller, but we find we have a lot more than that. It's gone to 2 to 3%, and I anticipate it increasing significantly.
Okay, and I've got that, I guess, and maybe I didn't state this well. As far as, for instance, when you take the 2015-16 school year to this year, and the school system increased the number of students by, I don't know,
About
Adams,
2.5 to
several
3%.
Okay,
And our growth was about 8% on 504s. So our percent of 504 growth is greater than our percent of adding students
Okay,
to the
okay.
system. Was that your question?
yeah, I think that got it, thank you.
And I think that's due to a lot of factors, which include the fact that our people are better at identifying and looking and evaluating.
I still have a couple more, if that's all right, Mr. Chairman, taking up the time. The 504 chair at each school, do they also have to fill other duties or responsibilities, or is this their only job?
They are largely the school
Counselors?
large percentage are in this school.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Questions from other board members?
Mr. Jordan,
Sir?
recently it's been explained to me that there is a difference between a medical assessment and an educational assessment. Pardon my late arrival. If you didn't already cover that, can you speak to that difference just as much as you would like to? Because as it was explained to me, that's a critical element in this process.
Well, we do have, students that have medical concerns with, and the parents are welcome to bring to the committee any information that they have, whether it's educational information. We look at, standardized tests that we have done ourselves, and we look at any medical documentation that they bring to answer those eligibility questions.
Okay. I don't want to go into areas that I'm really not qualified for, but what it was suggested to me is that from time to time, a physician or some medical professional may suggest a course of action. And while that may be an appropriate medical course of action, it may not necessarily relate to an educational context in the same way. Now, you guys are nodding like oh, okay, now I know what you're talking about. Take me down that road.
I understand your question.
Okay.
Okay. For example, ADHD, we get this all the time. Student on a prescription pad, student needs a 504 plan, and they need X, Y, and Z and extra time and, all this stuff. They'll even write down the accommodations that the child wants, and that's his medical opinion. However, when we get to the school, what we look at is how is the child doing? With or without medication, we'll look at it both ways. If that child is already making A's and B's, without any accommodations, or without any medication, then they may not qualify for 504, even though that doctor on his medical prescription pad said the child will qualify for 504.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that is an incredibly critical element to understand, because as we talk about IEPs, IAPs, 504s, et cetera, there is a parental perspective of some authority figure has spoken to me, therefore it shall be. But
That
there's
happens
a
a lot.
difference between a medical perspective and an educational perspective. It's kind of like physical therapy and occupational therapy. There are distinctions between these fields, and again, apologies that I missed portions of your presentation, but that was one thing that I was hoping that you would cover here, because I think it's an eye-opener.
We
That's
get
a great question.
We get that a lot in OT. Like, they will go to an outside OT and they will do an outside evaluation and they will say that the child needs XYZ. And we come to the school and we will do a school-based OT evaluation, which is very different than an outside evaluation. You don't have to, in school, you're not going to be required to, climb a ladder or something that they may assess outside of school. But our evaluations are very different. 99% of the time, that physician has never contacted us, has never gotten any input from the school on how that student is doing in the school, and all they have to go by is what the parent is saying.
Recently, this board was confronted with suggestions that we may be systematically ignoring recommendations. And as I looked as a board member to kind of understand that better, and thank you, Mr. Odom, for bringing this to us and having this presentation tonight, this difference between a medical evaluation and a medical opinion versus an educational evaluation and educational opinion, that was really important to me, and I really appreciate you highlighting this topic.
Good question.
Any other comments from board members?
Mr. Chairman, one more if I may.
Yes, sir.
Great services. Thank you for taking care of our children, and we're grateful, and God bless you for that. What did get my attention was on page 5, another unfunded mandate that we're getting either from the federal government or our General Assembly. What I would like for you to do, Mr. Holliday is our Federal Relations Network representative. He's going to Washington in January, and he'll be speaking to our senators, two senators, and several of our congressmen and women. And we would like for him to be updated as much as possible, because if they're going to mandate, and I'm glad we're doing this, but whatever they mandate, they need to pay for. And we would love your help in getting Mr. Holliday up to snuff so he can champion for us.
Thank you for the excellent report. This board appreciates it. What a service. Thank you.
May I add one other perspective? In those rare circumstances where we have something that happens at a school where we need counselors' presence, a tragedy or something, that it happens, these two ladies take the lead, so you have a face to go with that now, and use the counselors at the school or request services of additional counselors in our district to meet that need at that time. So if you hear some report of that, these are your two ladies that take the lead in that. They're the ones on call to go to our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Director, number 8.
Number 8, and I'm going to let Ms. Pilgrim do this. You're in for a treat tonight. I know this board's position on career and technical education and the importance of it to us in the educational field, but it's very important to the businesses and industries in Rutherford County, and I think that's what's going to be shared with us some tonight. Ms. Pilgrim?
Yes, thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight. I always brag on how supportive my superintendent and my school board. You guys make it so much easier for me to be able to do what I need to do, and other districts do not have that. So from the bottom of my heart, Brian and I, we thank you for your support. So last year about this time, Beth Duffield from the Chamber, she's the VP of the Workforce Development, she came and gave us an update on our Pathways Rutherford project, what we were doing. And so this is just kind of an update of that and kind of the things that we are doing and all the crazy things and awesome things that we are doing. And we also have Mr. Paul Lawson. He's the project manager with Turner Construction. And so they're going to do a presentation for us today on what we are doing with Rutherford Works and our Rutherford County Schools CTE department. So, Beth, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to come and give an update from what we've been doing over the last 12 months. And we've been doing a lot, and it is a wonderful collaboration and partnership with our school system, both city and county, the chamber, our industry partners, and so I just wanted to share some highlights with you. You have a packet with a little bit of everything. I'll touch on some. I'm going to go pretty quickly so that I can give most of the time to Paul to really talk about industry partnerships that we're developing. I can get my technology to work. So just as a reminder of why the Chamber is involved in this work and why we're so passionate about this. So we know that across the country, millions of young adults are arriving in their mid-20s without a post-secondary degree and or a reliable job. Most young people from all backgrounds do not have any clue about what they want to do when they graduate from high school. And so we end up with 5.5 to 6 year completion rates in our universities and 50% graduation rates from our universities, and ultimately an industry or a number of industries without qualified talent. And as the last bullet point on that slide says, we have a large disconnect between the skills that Tennesseans have and the jobs that are available, not just across Tennessee, but right here in Rutherford County. So we say we have a pipeline that isn't leaky, it's broken. And here's just a broad general overview of, from a national perspective. So if you look at 100 ninth graders when they start. 74 will graduate from high school, 46 will enter college, 31 are still enrolled after 1 year, but only 21 graduate within 150%, so 5.5 years. We have 36 million adults with some college and no degree across the country. In Rutherford County, we have about 35,000 that have some college but no degree. And also concerning is a low labor participation rate. So in the state of Tennessee, we are ranked 9th lowest in the nation for the number of people that are actively engaged in our workforce. And as that relates to our students, only 25% of students in the state of Tennessee under the age of 18 work. So when we have employers that talk about not only technical skills that are deficient, but also employability skills, soft skills, 21st century skills, many names for those. Part of that comes from the fact that our students are not working before it becomes imperative that they do work. So how do we get more of our students participating in the workforce in meaningful employment? So we believe that the answer to that is what the state has adopted as Pathways Tennessee. The state of Tennessee is a part of a national collaborative through Pathways to Prosperity, and there are 12 states that are involved in this. It's a partnership between Jobs for the Future and Harvard Graduate School of Education, and their goals are to seek to ensure that many more youth complete high school, obtain post-secondary credentials that mean something in the labor market, that they can take that degree and get a job, getting launched into careers successfully, and leaving open the prospect for further education. So we talk about stackable credentials, being able to earn one level of degree and work, and then continue on their education to earn more. What that looks like for us, not only as a state, but in Rutherford County, we firmly believe that we need rigorous academics. It's very exciting to hear the new ACT average for Rutherford County, so congratulations to the system. I know you all have worked hard on that. That ACT is a reflection not only of college readiness, but also of career readiness, because those ACT scores now correlate to ACT's Work Keys standards that measure workplace readiness in math, reading for information, and locating information. So the higher the ACT score, not only does that prepare them for college, but it prepares them for the workplace. We also believe that paired with that rigorous academic load, students need career and technical education. They need exposure to careers. They need exposure to opportunities beyond what they might have ever considered before. Most research shows that students by the age of 3rd grade are already considering careers, but they're only ever exposed to traditional, policemen, firemen, doctors, attorneys, and all of those are great professions. But in a community where we have a large percentage of manufacturing, logistics, healthcare needs, we need to expose them to different opportunities. So rigorous academics, career and technical education through high school, and then the opportunity for them to earn additional college credit while they're in high school, so dual enrollment, dual credit, and earn industry certification so that when they graduate high school, they are both college and career ready. And then we hope that they continue on to get an associate's degree or bachelor's degree, again, those stackable credentials that they can earn along the way. All of that leading to financially sustainable lifestyles and jobs in our community. Here's our Rutherford County example, and this has been shared many times, but I wanted to share it again tonight because it really highlights what we're talking about. So Mechatronics and our leadership from Oakland High School is here tonight, and we appreciate them being here. But this is our Rutherford County example. So we want to do lots of career exploration opportunities for our students in middle school, so they are aware of the types of courses that they can study in their respective high schools. Then once they're in high school, they have the chance at Oakland to earn industry certification, the Siemens Level 1. They have a chance to earn 12 college credits, 16 college credits. So they've taken a full semester of college credit before they even graduate high school. And then they can transfer that into Motlow or straight into MTSU for an additional industry certification at Motlow of a Siemens Level 2 or MTSU for a Siemens Level 3. And you can see the salaries there. So potentially they're walking out making $85,000 from MTSU, from Motlow, $61,000. So tremendous opportunities. It's our goal in terms of pathways to build out these kinds of scenarios for, at the very minimum, our 5 high-wage, high-demand sectors that have been identified in Rutherford County. 4 of these are listed here, so manufacturing, healthcare, finance and insurance, and professional services and technical services relate to IT. But you can see there that certainly manufacturing is our highest average annual wage with nearly $63,000. And here's another why. So I had the opportunity today to participate in a site selector presentation at the new fountains at Gateway. And I don't think this serves, does this serve as a pointer? Clicker? It does. Oh, thank you. So this building, I'm not very good at this. The building on the right, towards the middle. Okay. That is the current building that is just about finished at the Fountains at Gateway, and that's the new 4-story building that is going up across from the Medical Center, St. Thomas. And they're currently recruiting companies to fill those floors, and they're looking for all those professional services that we saw on the previous slide. So insurance, IT, back office operations. When this is completed, it has the potential to offer almost 5,000 jobs, depending on the layout and floor design of companies that should choose to fill this facility. So the first building on the right is completed. Phase 2 and 3 is a duplicate building across the street, and the back building is an 8-story building that they're projecting. It'll include living, there's apartments, luxury apartments on the back end, there's hotels, and retail all along the way. So you think of some of our career and technical education pathways and the opportunities that our students have for meaningful careers in our community. There's a lot sitting right in that space. And so as we think about how we recruit companies to fill that space, I'm very excited that we have the infrastructure in our county schools to help facilitate filling those jobs with our business programs, our marketing and entrepreneurship, IT. Those are just some of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. So in your handout, or in your packet, you have our new strategic plan graphic and our mission statement. Really, our vision is all about, or our mission is all about where passion meets opportunity. We want folks like Paul Lawson, who's going to talk to you this evening, who are experts in their industry, to share their passion with our students. We want students to be able to find opportunities to share, to further highlight their passions around industry opportunities. And so we have 4 strategic levers that we're focused on, that career exploration that you saw on the earlier slide. And in your handout too, you have, or in your packet, you have a handout about our 8th grade career pathway fairs. Those are underway. We finished our 4th pathway fair today. And I have invited all of you to attend the one on December 9th, and I hope you'll take advantage of the opportunity to join us. This is a model that we've created to allow students at their respective middle schools to learn about the CTE programs of study in their respective high schools before they set their schedules. And we've had tremendous response from principals, from students, from guidance counselors. This is a life changer for our students to be able to understand that if we were at Stewart's Creek Middle today, that I can study criminal justice. And we have the presenters for those programs are the teachers at the high school, students that have excelled during their time at the high school, and industry professionals. So today, in our criminal justice classroom, we had 2 of the smartest students I've seen in a long time from Stewart's Creek, who were teaching kids how to use handcuffs and other police techniques that they would need to know if they wanted to go into criminal justice to possibly be a police officer. Last week at Siegel High School, we had a professor at Columbia State bring his robots and had engaged conversation with students and the robots, and they could give the robots commands. So it's opening their eyes to new opportunities that they may never have considered before. Employer engagement, we consider that activities at the work site for our employers. This year we've hosted tours for National Trades Day. Turner Construction and Bell Construction hosted a group of students at the new courthouse. And Old South Builders had a group from Oakland High School that toured the new site development, can't think of the name of it, over on the Blackman side of town. And these students got to see development of homes from a grass lot all the way to a finished product. And to hear Derry Wells speak of this, his students have still not stopped talking about it and asking questions. So it's really giving students the hands-on and the visual to understand that what they're learning and how it applies to their opportunities beyond that. We also did tours for Healthcare Education Week and for manufacturing. This is the 4th year we've celebrated National Manufacturing Week. Then our work-based learning, we talked about that a little bit earlier, helping our students gain employment and meaningful opportunities related to what they're studying. So we want our mechatronics students to have jobs in high school related to what they're studying. So we want them to find employment in manufacturing facilities. And I think Paul will talk a little bit about what that looks like on the construction side. And then our pathways development was the slide I showed earlier, where students earn additional post-secondary credit and industry certifications before they graduate from high school. So our commitment from the Chamber standpoint and Destination Rutherford is the public-private partnership that funds economic and workforce development and our Convention and Visitors Bureau work in the county. In the last 2 years, we have committed $100,000 in direct and indirect services to the students and teachers of Rutherford County. And we have a commitment in our new plan. We've just finished fundraising or about to finish fundraising for our next phase of Destination Rutherford. So I'm blessed to have a budget of $800,000 over the next 5 years. And when we think about opportunities and how to use that money, there are other communities that have chosen different strategies than working on pathways and starting with our students as early as middle school. Some of those folks are focused on working with those adults who have some college and no degree, or working with some disadvantaged adults to help get them trained. And certainly that's a much faster pathway for our employers to get access to skilled labor. But we believe, and we are committed to the fact that we need a long-term plan as well. So we need to work with our students and help them grow in their development towards a career. And just some numbers. So in the last 2 years, we've had 150 students participate in code camps. We've had, by the time we finish December 9th, we'll have 7,000 students who have attended 8th grade career pathway fairs. We'll have 60 interns, and we're planning on 60 for next year. We had 200 teachers participate in the first ever Instructional Technology and STEM conference for educators in Rutherford County. And we've had over 300 students participate in industry tours. We have added 4 new clinical sites for our health science students. We've had 45 students graduate from Oakland High School with Siemens Level 1 certifications. And we've had 57 students graduate with their certified nursing assistant's license. And because of the great work that we're doing together, we have had the opportunity, Tyra and myself, to have visitors and present to a number of organizations this year. So the Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce brought a group of manufacturers down to look and see what we're doing in Rutherford County, not only with our plants, so they toured plants, but they came to the chamber and they heard the story of mechatronics. Oops, sorry. I had the opportunity to present to the Greene County schools and their education partnership programs. We had our furthest visitor came from Hawaii. The director of career and technical education visited with us in October and toured Oakland High School to see their health science construction and it's on a timer, obviously, and their health science manufacturing and construction programs. And she was very impressed with the level of partner engagement we have from our industry and the opportunities that we have for our students. I also had the opportunity to present at the Governor's Conference and highlight our high school internship program. So that is in general all the great things that we've been doing as a team. Part of our work too, as you'll notice on that graphic, related to our strategic plan, we are focused on 5 key industry sectors: our manufacturing, healthcare, construction, IT, and supply chain. We have started industry-led councils for 3 of those: healthcare, manufacturing, and construction. And our construction council started less than a year ago, and they have just taken off. They're so incredibly passionate. When you think about where passion meets opportunity, these folks are putting not just their money, but their time where their mouth is, and committed to helping our students, not only at Oakland, but how we look at our programs as we grow and expand in our county overall. So I'd like to introduce Paul Lawson to share with you the work of the Construction Council.
Thank you, Beth. I want to start off by just thanking the school board for the support of this program. It's incredible to see the chamber, industry, and educators involved in the development of the students, not only for their benefit, but for the benefit of the workforce here in Rutherford County as well. I know several of the board members have been in attendance to the council. I appreciate that. Several of you know what we're doing with the Construction Council, but reason I'm here, Beth asked me to talk about what we're doing, where we're going, and basically the purpose of this council was to bring educators, industry together to develop a program to cover the anticipated growth that we see over the next 10+ years in the construction industry. And how we're going to do that, the scope of what we want to do, is to implement a program that educates students to not only a skilled trade, but get some hands-on experience out in the field as well. Not just in the classroom, but get some hands-on experience as well. So the goals that our council has established associated with the Rutherford County Schools is to implement a pathway pilot program for the construction trade, and to do so by August of 17. Talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute in detail, but we also want to provide a dual enrollment opportunity so students can come out of high school and go into a 2-year program, or also go into a 4-year program. We want to develop career fair opportunities. Tyra touched on that a little bit. You know, I got the opportunity to attend the Oakland Middle School Career Fair just last Friday, and I think I got more out of that than they did. It was incredible to see how interested they were and the questions that we got, and I really did not anticipate that going into it. It was, not to say skeptical of how engaged 8th graders would be in a career, but they were really engaged, and really re-energized me in this effort. So we want to really focus on that. We want to communicate wages and earnings potential, not only students, but parents. Parents tend to shape the way that a student wants to learn and the career they want to take. And we want to communicate that construction industry has the potential to provide a great career for an individual and a family. And we also want to provide work-based learning opportunities. I think this may be may have the biggest impact of anything we do out of this entire council, is providing work-based learning opportunities for students to get out to network and get some hands-on training. So I've talked a little bit about the council, and I want to talk a little bit about the why this was developed. The chamber did their research a couple years ago and developed the 5 industries that they saw the biggest market segment growth in jobs, like Beth talked about. And one of the industries was construction, and the data came back and said by 2023 we're anticipating a 14% growth in workforce demand in Rutherford County. But I think that's compounded a little bit by the fact that the average age of a construction worker is 50, and the amount of construction workers retiring versus the amount of construction workers entering the industry, there's a gap of 25% there. So by 2023, you take that 14% and put the 25% on top of that because of the retiring workers gap, you're looking at almost 18% workforce growth in Rutherford County. And some may say, based on industry perspective and market analysis, that may even be fairly conservative. I think there's a lot more opportunity out there. So current state of the Construction Council, we have developed a pilot program for Oakland. much to success and efforts by Tyra and Brian, and appreciate their efforts in helping us pull this together, because without the educators that are involved in this council, we've just got a lot of ideas, and they know how to put it to work. So what we've identified and what the industry really brought to this was, we want to make sure that we're breaking this down into silos to where we can really focus in a 4-year term of high school, where we can really focus on bringing skill to them and teaching them a trade, to where if they did graduate high school and didn't want to go to a post-secondary school, then they could do so, and they had industry accreditations to be marketable to the workforce. So what we've done is we've broken it down to residential and commercial construction, mechanical and HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And they will focus their first freshman year. They come in, they decide they want to go the construction pathway. They'll focus on a fundamentals of construction course. All students will go through that course. And then their second year, they'll break out and they'll have a focused area or a focused trade. And they'll take 2 more courses in that trade, and then they will have a practicum their senior year, where they go out into the workforce at 1:30 and finish their day in the field. We've also been working with TCAT and Murfreesboro, and TCAT Shelbyville and MTSU on dual enrollment opportunities. We are still actively working on that. I believe Tyra and Brian have made headway on that over the last month, so excited to see where we get to there, but we are anticipating by August with this pilot program to have the opportunities for dual enrollment as well. We've also, Beth mentioned the industry involvement and not only time and money, but putting their heart in it. And, we worked with Dairy at Oakland to say, hey, how can we help? We can help by developing a curriculum that helps develop a workforce to meet the demand that we need. How can we help you? And one of the things was coming up with a donation list of materials and items and equipment that we in the industry can fairly easily donate and provide. And we came up with a list, and that list is quickly dwindling in just the last month that's been issued. So that's been an incredible thing to see, not only everybody donate time each month to come and develop this program and this council, but to also put their money where their mouth is and provide the equipment that Dairy needs to be successful. We've also brought If I Had a Hammer in, and we had a discussion with them. And I don't know if you're familiar with If I Had a Hammer, but I think this has a great opportunity to impact students across Rutherford County, not just those that come into the construction pathway, but If I Had a Hammer is a program that teaches third graders fractions, and not through book, but through application. And I think it's going to be eye-opening and a great opportunity that we're looking at providing funding for 3 schools. That would be an elementary school, city school, and then 2 county schools, a middle school and a high school. So I'm excited to see what comes there. It's in its infancy right now and still on a fundraising campaign, but I think that has some real legs and will have a real impact in Rutherford County from a mathematics perspective, not just a construction perspective. And last, I want to end on, I've talked a lot about industry and market demands, workforce demands, and what we need, but I want to also talk about the benefit of this construction pathway that I think it provides the student. It provides an opportunity for career exploration, job shadowing, getting out in the field, meeting people, networking. This is a people industry, and that is as important as anything. work-based learning. You know, I mentioned this was the single most imperative thing that everybody mentioned on the front end of the development of this council, and I think it's going to be great to see that back in our schools, and I think it'll have a huge impact, not only in providing them the skill and the knowledge to enter our workforce, but also to help develop a work ethic and soft skills that Beth mentioned. Industry accreditations, I didn't touch on this when I talked about the pilot program that we've developed, but everything's been based on NCCER accreditations. So each of these students that go through the construction pathway program will come out with industry accreditations through NCCER and will be immediately marketable to the workforce day one, and will be heads and shoulders above the rest of the workforce. Industry networking opportunities, and then lastly but not least, great wages. And, you know, I think it's important that we identify the opportunities for our students coming out of high school, going into a 2-year degree, going into a 4-year degree, and show them what their opportunities are, what their earning opportunities are, and educate their parents that these are great opportunities for a career for these students. I know I throw a lot at you quickly, and I don't know, Beth, do you have more? You got 2 more slides? But I appreciate everything y'all are doing. I appreciate the support. It's great, like I said, to see industry and the chamber and educators come together to develop these students and also to help suffice the workforce need that we have over the next 10 years. Thank y'all.
Now I broke it, sorry. So how do we continue this momentum? And this is kind of the summary and where we're looking to work in the next, in 2017. Continue to build the uncommon partnerships that's mentioned in our mission statement. How do we get more of our industry partners working with us across those 5 industry sectors, and making sure that they're industry-led initiatives that are a win for both the students and our industry partners. We need more folks sharing the load. We need secondary and post-secondary partners who are willing to think outside the box, and that's one of the best things we have going for us in Rutherford County is that Tyra and Brian, our principals, our guidance counselors, everybody's willing to come to the table to figure out how to do things differently and more effectively for our students. And then creative ways to support the growth of career and technical education programs. We've talked about unfunded mandates tonight. Well, when we think about equipment for many of these programs, that has a high ticket, high price to those for both equipment. And then how do we get teachers? So as we expand our construction program, where do we find folks that have industry certifications that can teach our students HVAC and plumbing and electrical in an environment where they could go and make triple what they could make as a teacher. So these are things that we've got to look at, creative opportunities. Is there an opportunity for, I had the opportunity to visit Knoxville as a part of the Complete Tennessee Leadership Program a couple weeks ago. They have a career magnet high school that is in a building that has a Pellissippi campus on the 2nd floor. And so students they'll have 2 students that graduate in their first cohort that started 4 years ago. This spring, they'll graduate with an associate's degree before they graduate with their high school diploma, which is pretty impressive. So there's lots of different opportunities that could be as we think about our future. And this relates to that. So you have this on a larger sheet of paper. This is very hard to see on the slide. But Greg Jones from Nissan actually put this together for us about a year ago. And if you look at the highlighted green pathway, so the bottom you have a list of all our middle schools. The center is a list of all of our high schools, or all of our pathway programs and the high schools that represent those programs. And some of those are health science. We have Healthy. We've got about 8 schools with those programs. Our information technology, some really great programs at 6 of our schools. Transportation and logistics, those programs are auto body and auto maintenance. So we don't have curriculum yet around supply chain and logistics. So that would be something we would want to add. Manufacturing we have in 3 of our schools. STEM we have in 3 of our schools. Architecture and construction, really that's just one. The one at Smyrna is interior design, which is a part of that, but not what we've talked about with our council. So 3 of those high demand areas, we have fewer programs of study. So again, thinking creatively, how do we provide opportunity for more students to participate without increasing cost tremendously? So that's all I have. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I don't know if you have any questions for Paul, but thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it.
Board, questions, comments?
You said that there were 12 states involved in the Pathways to Prosperity program. Have you had the opportunity to be at some organizational meetings of that greater organization?
Yes, so May 2015, I participated in the state coalition. So we had about 12 folks from Rutherford, from the state of Tennessee, including economic development folks, State Department of Education, and then Pathways Intermediary. So the Rutherford County Chamber is the Pathways Intermediary for Rutherford County. There are IDA boards that facilitate that in other communities. And yes, so we participated in a collaborative meeting where we learned about best practices in other states and how they're implementing this. I will tell you that for the most part, Tennessee is by far further ahead in pathway development than any of the other states. We were talking, I think it was Indiana, some of their high school, the community that we were working with from Indiana, they had 2 programs. They had healthcare and manufacturing. That was it in their high schools, where we have 10 to 12 programs in every high school. So there's really something for every student.
That's exactly where I wanted you to go with that. Thank you for reading my mind. We get in rooms sometimes, this board, we go to national conferences and things of that nature, and sometimes we're fortunate enough to kind of look at each other and go, yeah, we got that. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, we do that. And just one thing after another, and we come back and we say, all right, we're on the right path. Likewise, I expect that when you go to a conference of that circumstance, you've got 12 states from across, and I'm looking at their website now, California, Texas, I mean, we got the big dogs in the room. And who's leading the way? Tennessee, right?
Yes, in terms of the number of students that have access to career and technical education, I would say Tennessee's probably at the top 2 or 3.
Exactly. Okay. Sometimes in this day and age, when we hear about multi-state collaborations and things of that nature, it's something that the public recoils against and says, wait a second, I've seen that collaboration, where we all get together and do the exact same thing, and that's not good. We want independence and such as that. If we're the leader in this, then I feel like that we're being good stewards of what we've accomplished. We're spreading the seed to other systems, and it's certainly evidenced by those who have come to see our programs. When you go to the state of Tennessee, what kind of sense, and I'm asking you to brag here, what kind of sense do you get among the state of Tennessee? You mentioned the program at Pellissippi with Knoxville, certainly something to take note of, but as we rank against the rest of the Tennessee?
Well, I do have to brag, because I think what the base that you all have set and the opportunities that you have provided for our students is very significant. I mean, and I'll just use some of our neighboring counties as an example. So Davidson County, and they have career and technical programs in their high schools, but they're set up on an academies system. So they may only have 3 programs of study in any high school. Again, we have 10 to 12, so our students have a much broader opportunity to explore what they want to do for college and careers. I'm a best practice junkie. I'm not smart enough or have enough time to go and recreate the wheel, so I'm always looking for best practices. We've got one we hope to share with you here in a couple months from another community. But I was on the phone today with Jackson, Tennessee Chamber of Commerce. They have a new education and workforce person. She's coming on December 9th to the Career Pathway Fair and is going to sit down and talk with us about what we're doing. As I mentioned, I've been to Greene County. Dr. Vicki Kirk, who is a Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Education, participated in our Teach Ready conference back in May 31st and June 1st, and she was so impressed with what we're doing in Rutherford County, she asked me to come and speak to the Greene County group, their education and workforce group, around what we're doing, particularly our high school internship, giving those students real-world experience. So I'm going to Tyra and I presented in Murray County last week. I'm going to Giles County in January. So I'm very proud to be able to share the work that we're doing here.
Last question, I promise. When you're courting that new business, that new industry in your chamber capacity, how long in the conversation before you bring up our educational system here in Rutherford County?
Well, it's not me bringing it up. That is one of the first questions that any company that Brian Hercules works with for economic development is, tell me about your workforce, tell me about your education system. So he has a lot now to share. I didn't share this with you tonight, but if you go to rutherfordworks.com, which is our economic and workforce website, we've recreated our workforce page. We have videos now of what's going on at Oakland in healthcare, manufacturing, and construction. We are trying to talk more about outcomes so that employers that are looking to move here or to expand here see these numbers of the number of students we're putting out related to mechatronics, number of students we have in the nursing programs, number of students that we have in accounting programs are earning information technology certifications. So it is more education and workforce is more important now than sites and tax incentives. And I apologize, I'm remiss, I forgot to thank James Evans for all of his help. He has been a huge supporter for us in getting the word out to parents about what's going on in the schools, because I have a 10th grader and a senior, and most times when they come home, do they tell me anything that happened or any message that was conveyed to them at school? Absolutely not. But through the email system and robocalls, he's been sharing with our parents all fall things about our pathway fairs, about our tours, and then we'll start into marketing our internship program in the 1st of January. So you have a tremendous asset in James, and we thank him very much.
We're starting to like Mr. Evans as well, as a board. Are there other questions? If not, thank you both for coming in. Again, an excellent report. I thoroughly enjoyed that. We'll move on to facilities. Mr. Director.
I too want to thank you, Ms. Duffield, Mr. Lawson. This is not philosophical, and you can see that from the boards. There's real money things happening. I mean, I've seen that list that the Construction Council is providing, their tools, their materials that you work with at Oakland and all. So it's dollars and cents. It's not just philosophical, it's happening. So thank you very much. Looking at facilities, Christiana Middle School baseball concrete project. Dr. Crystal Hastings, principal of Christiana Middle School, has requested permission to place concrete at the baseball field in the bleacher and concession stand areas. There will be a fenced storage area that will be utilized for both baseball and softball. The project is 2,350 square feet of concrete and 60 linear feet of fencing. The concrete placement will be provided by Summit Concrete. The cost of the project is approximately $7,000 and will be funded by fundraisers and donations at no cost to the board. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve concrete and fence work at Christiana Middle School baseball field. The fenced-in storage area will be used for both softball and baseball, and this project will be completed at no cost to the board.
You've heard the motion.
So moved.
Second.
I believe that was Mr. Young and Mr. Holliday. Any comments? Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. There are none. Mr. Director, Part B.
Collier Engineering Materials Testing Fee Proposal. Collier Engineering has submitted a fee proposal for testing services. Rutherford County Schools Engineering and Construction Department has 4 major projects under construction and is in need of geotechnical and concrete testing services. Collier has worked with us on several projects and has always provided quality services in a timely manner. A schedule of fees is attached for the board's review, and this is a professional service. So recommend approval of the motion to approve Collier Engineering and their schedule of fees for use on our ongoing construction projects. This is a professional service.
Any further recommendation?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Estes, a second. Second. Mr. Blair, thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to number 10, financial matters. The public needs to know, I guess, again, just to remind them that we had a work session last night and we have been over all of this, but we read things publicly and our director reads them well. So go ahead with number 10.
This is a general purpose school budget amendment. This general purpose school fund budget amendment amends $123,926 in 2015-2016 donations from unassigned fund balance $66,812 from unassigned fund balance in order to fund the balance of a liquidated 2015-16 cabling purchase order for John Coleman School, $103,015 in new revenues, and the $293,753 in expenditures that match the intent of donations, liquidated purchase order, or new revenues. From unassigned fund balance, we'll have $20,369 for the Virtual Enterprise Vocational Program, $11,298 from Jennings Jones Foundation for Spectrum, $6,509 donations for the Rutherford County Schools Children's Clothing Fund, $85,750 for Coordinated School Health Grant from Ascension, $66,812 for John Coleman Cabling PO. That's $190,738 from unassigned fund balance. The new revenues are $21,000 from Coordinated School Health Grant for walking tracks, $6,500 in donations for Rutherford County School Children's Clothing Fund, $14,801 staff development grant through Metro Schools, $60,714 is federal funds through the state for high-cost special education. That's $103,015 in new revenues. Recommend approval. The motion is to amend the 2016-2017 General Purpose School Fund budget by $123,926 in the 2015-16 donations from unassigned fund balance, $66,812 from unassigned fund balance in order to fund the balance of liquidated 2015-16 cabling purchase order for John Coleman School, $103,015 in new revenues, and the $293,753 in expenditures that match the intent of donations, liquidated purchase order, or new revenues as presented.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Holliday.
Second.
Mr. Estes seconded. Thank you both. Mr. Hodge. Mr. Hodge, you have a question?
He seconded.
I'm sorry. That was Mr. Hodge. Okay, thank you. Everybody got it but me. Is there a comment? Question from anyone? If not, all in favor of the recommendation, please, motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and there are none. We just about got the revised policies memorized. We get to read them one more time. Mr. Director.
This is our revised policies. They're in tab 4 on your computer. The purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect the chairman of the board and not the director appoints a committee to make recommendations for naming new schools. That's policy 3.210. Policy 1.402, notification of meetings. Purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect that meeting notices are currently posted on the district website. Policy 1.403, agendas. Purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to eliminate the section entitled Annual Agenda. Policy 1.406, minutes. Purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect that minutes are currently posted on the district website. Policy 1.200, method of election of officers. Purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to eliminate the portion requiring that the board nominate a Tennessee Legislative Network representative in the first regular meeting in September, and clarifying that the director will preside over meetings until a new chairman is elected. Policy 2.200, annual operating budget. The purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to reflect new legal requirements regarding budget timelines. Policy 4.605, graduation requirements. Purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to comply with the new legal requirements regarding students taking a U.S. civics test and addressing statutory requirements for early graduation. Policy 6.413, which is the prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions. Purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to comply with new legislation listing physicians' assistants as healthcare providers that may evaluate and provide clearance for return to athletics. Policy 1.407 is school board records. Purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to meet legal requirements that name or title and the contact information of the individual designated as a public records coordinator be included in the policy. Policy 6.304, student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation. Purpose of the revision is to revise the policy to include the definition of harassment. Recommend approval of the motion to approve the revision to policy 3.210, 1.402, 1.403, 1.406, 1.200, 2.200, 4.605, 6.413, 1.407, and 6.304 on second and final reading as recommended by the Policy Committee.
You've heard the recommendation. I need a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Young, thank you. A second.
Second.
Mr. Estes, thank you. Any questions? Comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Student discipline appeals. You have, I'm certain, done your due diligence and read the two separate appeals that we have tonight. You want to read the requirements here?
Okay. We have two separate. The policy states the board shall review the disciplinary hearing authority record and you have 5 options under the law. 1, you may affirm the decision of the designated hearing authority, or you may overturn the decision of the designated hearing authority, or you may modify the decision of the designated hearing authority to a lesser penalty, except in cases of zero tolerance violations, or you can grant a second hearing, which would be before the board, or you may, number 5, deny a request for a board hearing. And that's the same options for each of the two.
The first vote is on the one that is dated 1/10, right at the top. I think you see what I'm talking about there. We don't usually state names here, and I need a motion to do one of those 5 things.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, sir.
move to affirm the decision of the DHA.
Second. Okay, Mr. Hodge seconds Mr. Blair's motion to affirm the decision of the DHA. All in favor of this first one, of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And the second discipline, you don't have to read that again, do you? It's exactly the same, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I need a motion on B.
I'll move to affirm the decision of the DHA.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Second by Ms. Moore. Any comments? If there are none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, going on with number 13, Mr. Director.
13 is for information only. Per policy 1.108, nepotism, Scott Moore is to be employed by Rutherford County Schools at Buchanan Elementary School. And 14's been removed, I think.
Insurance update, I believe we haven't met since the last time, is that right? We don't. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Barnes. Director's update.
Nothing new this evening.
Nothing new tonight? TLN, Ms. Moore, anything?
Just a reminder again, Mr. Chairman, of our meeting on Monday, December the 12th with our state legislators and doing in conjunction with our city school board as well.
Okay, you might be thinking about some questions that you might want to ask, and I'll get back with you on that. And Ms. Michaels, when do we meet on the Rock Springs final? I don't have my list in front of me. It's the 10th.
December the 10th.
That's our next meeting, isn't it? The next time we're together as a board? First. That's our next meeting as a board. Okay, okay. I'll distribute, we don't have to put this on the agenda, but I will ask my fellow board members for questions for the legislators that night and give them a couple of days, so we'll be okay there. Anything from our friends in Washington?
There is a start of discussion as to who will be the Secretary of Education in the next administration, and I'd encourage board members to keep that on their radar as we continue to watch the transition.
General discussion by board members. Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Nothing tonight? TSU tips off in 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Okay, thank you all very much for your input. excellent meeting, and thanks to our visitors who doing such an excellent job for our students. We are adjourned.